Hey guys, welcome back to another exclusive podcast from IronFX. At IronFX, we're dedicated to bringing you the absolute best trading education to help you take your trading to the next level. In today's podcast, we'll be talking about whether you should focus on mastering a single currency pair. Now, for the sake of clarification, when I'm referring to a single currency pair, I don't just refer to something like the euro dollar. I also refer to stuff like gold, oil, the S&P 500, single instruments. Nowadays, I notice that there are a lot of traders out there that want to believe in this concept of specialization, right? They're thinking, all right, you know what? I am just going to be an S&P 500 trader. I'm just going to be a gold trader. I'm just going to be a euro dollar trader. I'm just going to focus on one instrument, right? One currency pair. I'm just going to focus on it and I'm just going to do well, right? Because I don't want to spread myself out too thin looking at all the different currency pairs. I just want to focus on this and be a specialist in it, right? And I liken that. Right, I liken that to trying to, jigsaw puzzles. Right, we know jigsaw puzzles, right? It's this thing where you put many pieces together to create a whole picture. Correct. Trying to focus on one single instrument and trade well is like looking at one corner of the jigsaw puzzle and trying to piece together the entire picture. Just looking at one corner, right? Everyone is looking at the big picture and trying to piece together the jigsaw puzzle, and looking at all these different pieces and trying to piece it together so you get you know what's a big picture. But you're there looking at one corner and it's like, okay, I'm just going to focus on this one corner, right? Every single piece that comes in, I'm just going to try to fit it into here, right? And all the while not realizing that there's a whole bigger picture out there. Right, you're just looking at the corner and like, I wonder what this picture is, and you can never tell because you're just focusing on that one corner, right? So that is the danger of focusing on just one instrument. For example, if you focus on something like euro dollar, right, you do need to know that, right, euro dollar is very correlated, right? When you correlated with many different things, right, it's very correlated with the strength of the dollar, like the dollar index, right? It's very has a pretty strong negative correlation with dollar franc. It's a pretty, when I say negative correlation, I mean that one goes up, euro dollar goes up, dollar franc tends to go down, right? It's a pretty decent correlation with euro yen, and both tend to roughly go around the same. Medium weak kind of correlation with pound dollar, right? They tend to go roughly in the same direction, but not all the time. It depends from time frame to time frame. Right, but there's so many things that move the euro dollar. So many things that move. You think about euro dollar, right? Just like a currency pair. There's so many things that move the euro. There's so many things that move the dollar. The dollar itself, safe haven currency, right? So many things. The stock market, how the stock market does, how gold does, right, affects the US dollar. There's so many different things that affects the US dollar, and so many other different things that affect the euro. So one of the big dangers of focusing on a single instrument is that you tend to be blindsided by all the other things that might move it. Instead, a better approach would probably be to focus on all things that affect, if you want a certain specialization, right? You ought to focus on all things that affect a certain currency pair, of all things that affect maybe gold, for example, because it is true that when you're analyzing gold, right, when you're analyzing something like gold, right, something else like maybe soybean, right, soybean or even corn might not have the prices of soybean or corn might not even affect it that much, right, but there are other things that do affect it, like for example the prices of oil, right? How prices of oil affect the inflation, and from there when inflation happens, the Fed, for example, needs to increase the interest rate to fight inflation, and then drives recessionary fears, and then how it affects the price of gold, right? So there's technically a lot of different things that are loosely connected to the price of gold. So even though there's no direct correlation, right? You can weed out the weak correlations, right? Like I mentioned, you're trying to master gold, right? You probably don't need to focus so much on what's the price of orange juice gonna be, but you do need to have an understanding of maybe silver. You do need to have understanding of the US dollar. You do need to have understanding of inflation, the price of oil, right? You need to have an understanding of this US stock market, how it's doing, because based on how it's doing, the Fed would behave differently, right? So there are different things that affect the price of gold. So not just looking at the gold chart and just analyzing the gold chart, but you do need to actually look at those things that are strongly related, whether it's correlated or affects the price of gold, right? You ought to have a strong eye, one, not even one eye. You need to have both eyes on all of the things that pull gold in all these different directions, right? So long answer to a short question is that instead of focusing on a single instrument, right, you should focus on everything that affects a single instrument, right? Focus your energy on, and that will really help you. Someone said, when you look at the news and you're like, okay, inflation is going up. How is this going to affect gold, right? The Fed's going to increase interest rates, right? The Fed's going to increase interest rates. Then what's that going to happen to the world? The world is going to hold back on spending, right? Because the cost of borrowing is going to go up, right? And that's going to cause a lot of recessionary fears. That's going to have a flight to safe haven. Hence, gold might go up. Right, so these are different things that maybe once you're a master of everything that affects a single instrument, right? Anything that comes in, whether it's the news that comes in, look at a chart that comes in, right? You get to make a much more informed decision instead of just looking at one corner of the jigsaw puzzle and trying to figure out what is moving the prices of gold. All right, guys. Anyway, that's it for me for today's podcast. Whether we should be focusing on mastering a single currency pair, a single instrument, even a single asset, right, in our trading, right? Do remember to subscribe to our podcast, as here at IronFX, we're dedicated to bring you the very best trading education to take a trading to the next level. Until then, stay safe, trade safe, and peace out, guys.